We interrupt your program to issue a severe warning for an impending emergency making its way to your area. We urge you to be watchmen of the times and to be prepared with the essential knowledge and supplies for the wake of the final hour.
Welcome to the Final Hour podcast, coming to you from the original Living Word Christian Center out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. My name is Jim Hammond. This is Lonaiah Farrell. This is John Gapp, and we have Jeremiah JD.
Yay!
JD on the sound today as producing, and we're just going to thank all our viewers, listeners on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and then our viewers on YouTube. And I also believe you can view us on Spotify. We thank you so much. And for all our subscribers, we're just blessed. And I really do mention you in my prayers every day, as Paul talks about in Ephesians. And so just starting out with a short first part of the teaching, comes in 3 sections today. We're just going to go back to the book of Revelation. And we really have done quite a bit out of the book of Revelation. We've done the trumpet judgments. We've done the bowl judgments. We've done the seal judgments. We've talked about the harlot of Babylon, spent about 3 or 4 weeks on that.
The blood drinker.
Yes.
It's gross.
As you can see,
Yes, I had my coffee.
She's had half of a caramel macchiato, and you can see the difference. But
Flying to the moon.
But we had 2 podcasts talking about the rapture of the church and the Antichrist, and specifically, we've done podcasts on Armageddon, the tribulation temple itself. All these you can go back and find in the previous 31 episodes. But if you look into the book of Revelation, chapter 19, you've basically got the battle of Armageddon, where Christ comes down, destroys the armies of the Antichrist. He captures the Antichrist and the false prophet, throws them into the lake of fire. You can see Revelation 19, chapter 19, closing out the chapter. In the final verses, there's this angel standing in the sun, and he calls all the birds of the air to the valley of Megiddo, where you've got 200 million dead bodies. Not one of them will escape. That's the armies of the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And these birds will eat these bodies over time.
So the angel is the one who calls the birds.
Yes.
Okay, I never knew
well,
that.
they're already... Ezekiel
But they're
38 is a
there.
whole different game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've talked about Ezekiel 38, and there's 17 new species of predatory birds in the last 3 years have suddenly shown up in Israel. And, I'm thinking Ezekiel 38, based on Billy Brim, could go any moment.
Right.
And so I'm going to Israel November 3rd.
Well, because, she was talking about, obviously, the Feast of Trumpets is coming up here.
She was at Living Word this past weekend for those of you who do not attend the
She's a
services
prophet.
here. Yes.
Prophetess.
The end of the Shemitah cycle and the Jubilee years, the year of Jubilee is all...
Isn't it the 25th?
It's...
So
it
this
starts
coming Sunday?
the 24th and 25th is that weekend, and then the start of the new year is the 26th. In that new year, there's like a 10-day space between the new year and the next the start of the next, and that's going to start a Jubilee year because that comes after 7 Shemitah cycles. So it's a wild time. I think Ezekiel 38 could be any time in the next year.
Well, we'll have to send Jim to Israel with a camera.
Well, I'm going November
record.
3rd.
On the ground.
Till November 15th.
Pastor James.
I'm going to hop on a tour with the famous Jonathan Cahn, wrote the book Harbinger. He's got a tour, about 350 people, and I'll be on that tour 6 days, and then I'm staying in the Golan Heights on the Syrian border.
Sweet.
Hoping that Ezekiel 38 starts, and then I can send pictures of the rocks on fire as big as houses.
That's why we need to get him a real phone instead of the flip.
Falling on the Russian army. Well, I'm taking an iPhone over there, right? You've got an extra one in a drawer somewhere at your house.
Yeah,
that'll be good.
But these birds are already there for Ezekiel 38.
I've got an Android you can take.
Perfect. Thanks, John.
And there'll be 200 million dead bodies on the ground.
Yeah.
The armies of the Antichrist. These birds are going to eat the bodies. We've covered all this stuff, but I really want to talk about what happens after that is something called the Millennium. The Millennium, the word Millennium means 1,000, all right?
1,000.
Revelation 20, verse 1. I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. So we have this angel. He has a key to hell that is taken from Satan when he's cast out of heaven. In Revelation 12, 7 through 9, we also covered that in a whole podcast. It's a heavenly war that's disputed because, for instance, my father says, that's when Satan was initially kicked out of heaven. No, it's not. And so there is another heavenly war, and we explained that and gave you the different opinions on that in Revelation 12. So this angel also has a chain in his hand. And I'll tell you that in Revelation 20, we just kind of lay the groundwork for this. This is the only place the millennium is mentioned in the Bible is Revelation 20. But it's mentioned 6 times, all right? So it's got to be significant. The millennium will need to happen to redeem creation. And really, you could say that the heart of the Old Testament prophetic messages is the coming of Jesus to set up what? The earthly kingdom on the millennium. And this is where that literally happens. Revelation 20, verse 2. This angel lays hold of the dragon, the devil, the old serpent
of old,
which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. So here we have what seems to be just a regular angel. Usually Michael and Gabriel and all those guys are mentioned, at least most of the time, when they're involved. He's grabbing the angel, tying him up in the chain. And remember, this is happening when the tribulation ends, after Armageddon. And so, that's the first part. We've got 2 more of these little teachings. We just kind of, we like mixing it up here because people have written in and said they'd rather have it this way. So starting out with local news, you'll never hear this on our local news. Governor Walz, the Minnesota governor, state governor,
hopefully not for
he's
long.
got this carbon-free future.
Shocker.
That cost customers $3,800 extra per year. And it's a proposal is essentially a wind, solar, and battery storage mandate, which is the same energy policy that is failing in California. As the state, California is struggling to keep the lights on. Power bills continue to climb. According to a report, Minnesota law has prohibited the construction of new power plants since 1994.
Prohibited? Why?
Yeah, why?
Why?
And to just look at California. California has rolling blackouts / brownouts. They already are asking their electric vehicle drivers not to charge them.
I know, but
multiple hours of the day and say, hey.
Speaking of electric vehicles,
so you can't win with green energy. You're going to lose no matter what because they can turn it off or they can mandate that you turn it off.
Right. But they're trying to push this because the governor of Michigan, who's a far left pusher.
Whitmer?
No, Talib, whatever, however you say her name. But she was doing
Senator.
Okay,
Yeah.
Senator. She was doing a meeting with some banks and some bigwigs at a conference, and she asked them what they were doing. This is what she says. She says, where is it? She said she asked all the bank executives if they have a policy against funding new oil and gas products to stop them. So she was interrupted by the J.P. Morgan Chase CEO who humiliated her. And he said, absolutely not. Why would we do that? That would be a road to hell for America. So now you have people like him being like, why are we stopping this? What are we doing here, people?
Talib, she's a representative.
Oh, she's annoying. She's one of the like squad. She's part of the squad.
Yeah.
With Omar, whatever her name is, from Minnesota.
Omar and OAC.
AOC.
No comment on them. A pro-LGBT legal group based in St. Paul has released a public education toolkit.
Thank you.
How convenient.
To
Very
pressure
convenient.
schools into promoting transgender ideology like they're doing in Chicago public schools.
Yep.
Chicago public schools
It's crazy.
have adapted what's it called, Pritzker's sex ed curriculum. They'll be teaching, and that Governor J.B. Pritzker, his new controversial sex education curriculum, which aims to provide more explicit instruction to Illinois kindergarten through 12 students on LGBTQ concepts, cross-dressing, anal and oral sex, abortion at earlier ages. This will begin in kindergarten. Will be taught gender identity is what it'll be called. Third graders will learn how to take hormone blockers to change from a boy to a girl. Sixth grade students will be taught how to have oral and anal sex, condom wearing, and the pregnancy option of abortion. This is
What a disgrace.
This is mind-blowing.
This
What
is
a
mind-blowing.
disgrace.
It's mind-blowing.
It's absolute garbage.
Well, I just want to I just have to find it because I sent it to somebody, but they're really, really pushing this stuff. Listen to what the World Professional Association for Transgender Health did this week. They have removed all age guidelines regarding the appropriate time to start puberty-blocking drugs and undergo surgeries to remove healthy organs. I was reading this thing, Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
They're based in Tennessee. They see a child as young as 3 years old, and they started this child on a puberty blocker, and then they started removing safe tissues from kids around 8 years old that were starting to develop. But the good thing is you had Landon Starbuck, who was running for, I don't know what he was running for. He was running for something in Tennessee.
An office.
Yeah, an office. And him and his wife met with the governor of Tennessee. So the governor is now looking into Vanderbilt University, and they're doing a deep dive into and investigating them to see if this really is true. But it is true because they have content on their website. But why the push for this? Why are they going so hard at?
It's mutilation. It is.
But when has there?
It's confusion.
It is. But why are you trying to sexualize kids in preschool?
Right.
At some schools, they're asking. This is a homework assignment I read. I don't know what state it was in, but they're telling I think it was first graders, to ask the parents if they could watch sex for educational purposes. It's disgusting.
Yeah, what you're going to create is a bunch of little porn fiends.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Right.
But listen, the U of M, it has a Minneapolis Marxist school. It will be a weekend of a discussion on revolutionary theory and strategy. Welcome Karl Marx, right? Karl Marx and Lenin and Stalin, I mean.
Just pillars of the community.
Pillars of the community. And okay, the state of Minnesota is set to pass a law, and this is a correction on last week. We got something wrong last week, that would allow same-sex marriage in the state of Minnesota. It's a correction on that. Same-sex marriage is, you can get married if you're gay in Minnesota, state law. What we're trying to do is we're asking people to take action and put a stop to MR 8404. This vote has been set back. You can call the Capitol Switchboard in Minnesota, 1-202-224-3121.
And we have a link to all that.
Or call your state representative, Amy Klobuchar or Tina Smith, and any other senators you can, as state majority leader Chuck Schumer plans to push this bill through this month. Not state majority leader, but the Senate
majority leader.
Now listen, this is federal, okay? This is where we got this wrong last week. Same-sex marriage is legal in Minnesota.
Yep.
But the federal law, if they pass it federally, it can trump the state laws that don't allow this, the states that don't allow this. And so
they're pushing this vote now to after midterms in November.
Right.
And
so we have time.
I had someone very close to me ask, "What do you care? Like, what do you care if the gay people get married?" And I actually, you know what? I don't care. If they want to get married, go get married.
Right.
I got no problem with you. You don't bother me. I don't bother you. Right. But here's the thing. Here's what happened when everybody started making the gay marriage legal, look where we are now.
Right.
Look where we are now. Little girls being turned into little boys, puberty blockers, a whole transgender curriculum spreading its way. This is where, and I believe if you give an inch, every inch you give, they wind up taking a mile.
Yeah.
And if the gay marriage wasn't allowed, right.
This other stuff wouldn't be.
It wouldn't even be here.
Wouldn't be an issue.
It wouldn't even be here.
Well, I listened to a
I completely
detransitioner who was on Charlie Kirk's podcast, and he was explaining that it starts with little things like that, and then it goes into the indoctrination of the LGBTQ and the language. He's like, the language is what gets you, because you start to do deep dives into what does that mean? What does that mean? Then pretty soon you're desensitized to the radicalness of it.
Yeah.
And he just said, parents, he's 32 now, and he did his transition at 26 and then regretted it at 27. Like he said the day after he made the change.
There's thousands out there. Hundreds of thousands.
Did the surgery. He said literally the next day I was like, what did I just do?
Right.
I regret it. But his story is actually really amazing. And there's an 18-year-old girl who we've talked about before who's detransitioning and doing it, but he's like, pay attention to what your kids are doing. Don't allow your children, and we didn't allow our kids to be in their rooms with computers or phones. Pay attention to what they're watching. It's all over TikTok. They're making this like it looks amazing on TikTok. Kids talking about it, saying let's do something. It's just so pay attention to your children and what they're doing. Talk to them about it.
And exactly what you're saying is one of the things that we're fighting is the change of words.
Yes.
Now, and we've already known that the whole idea that right will be called wrong, good will be called evil, so on and so forth. But that's what we're dealing with right now. That is that push of things don't have solid meanings anymore, and you can make it mean whatever you want to mean. You can be whatever you want to be.
Right.
And everything just the concept of truth is lost.
Right. Can I just say one more thing about the United States stands against our stance against the LGBTQ?
Yeah.
They're trying to push it in other countries, and other countries are saying we don't want that. No.
Yeah.
I mean, Biden.
What other countries?
There was an article last week. I read it. There's like 10 other countries. Where are they having the revolt with the women right now and the hijabs? Where they just killed that lady for not wearing her
I'll take
hijab. Hijab.
If you can find that, John,
great.
Let's come back to that. But
I'll Google it.
But listen, in the meantime, the Senate is going to wait to vote on that same-sex marriage bill, and they're going to wait till after the November midterm elections. I wonder why. And
because then they will not be able to be held responsible, especially if they get tossed from office.
Right.
The FBI made 6,000 arrests, seizes firearms in summer-long operation. That's from those are from criminals with felonies. These are just updates. And the NATO chiefs, Jens Stoltenberg, says that the NATO weapons stocks are completely depleted. These are just small updates.
UN, the United Nations, and everybody under them is warning strongly against the radicalization of the LGBTQ push from America. That's just one article.
The United Nations?
Even the UN
expert.
Wow, that's surprising.
Well, because other countries, they need their populations to rise.
Right.
Because their population increasing means more people working, et cetera, et cetera. The United States is already on a population decline.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is only going to further that process and that problem.
Well, we've got President Biden signed on Executive Order 1467. You need to check that out because this, if you don't hear anything else in the whole podcast, you need to hear this. Buried inside this order is a sinister provision that could give government unprecedented control over your money and your freedom, legal surveillance of all U.S. citizens, total control over your bank accounts and purchases, and the ability to silence all dissenting voices for good, what they call bad.
So they're going to use the 87,000 IRS agents to do that?
Possibly. Remind me to put that
in the sermon
on the
notes.
weekend.
Okay.
President Biden declares that this COVID-19 pandemic is over weeks before the midterm elections.
You guys, his 60-minute interview, he made so many comments that the White House had to walk them all back.
It was just crazy.
It was.
Yeah, it was a television interview,
Yes.
and the White House had to walk back the statements and state that the fact that it's not over, because if they're saying it's over, he has to take away all those executive orders that give him more power.
Right.
And every other governor in the country who's abusing their power. Oh, gosh, California.
Oh, boy.
According to Biden, it's over, but the White House is saying it's not, right? COVID. Hong Kong forces COVID patients to wear QR bracelets to track their movements.
What? No.
Under the health code system, this tracks the movement of people via mobile phones. Citizens are allowed to enter public spaces if the QR code on their account reads the color green.
What a tracking system.
Yeah, people are starting to be tracked all over the world.
So insane.
That's the point we're making. Hong Kong is also dragging people to COVID isolation facilities. This is straight from a Bloomberg writer.
Yes.
He got a warning from a hotel that he was exposed to COVID. Not had it, exposed. They boarded up his room like a crime scene, had a camera mounted outside his door, so he couldn't leave. They then ordered him to an isolation hotel, and he's only allowed to open the door to throw his trash out and grab his meals 3 times a day. So they're starting
Crazy.
You remember we were talking about the COVID camps in Australia.
Right.
I think that plays into the FEMA camps that Obama started actually.
Google
building.
that. Look at that on a map. See how many there are. And you wonder why they're buying
camps.
up farmland all over the United States.
Yes.
Good call.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's go back to the teaching here. Revelation 20, verse 3. So what happens is this angel grabs Satan, chains him up, and starting in verse 3, casts him into the bottomless pit, shut him up, set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. After that, he must be loosed for a little season.
Think of how crazy he'll be at the end of that 1,000 year being chained down and not being able to do anything. He's just going to go psycho.
Ape.
Okay, now we have this regular angel, an angel casting Satan bound and chained into the abyss. It says to keep him from deceiving the nations during these 1,000 years. So from this point, the survivors from the tribulation are going to repopulate the earth, all right? Where the Bible talks about everyone has to go to Jerusalem once a year to see Jesus, all right? This is the only requirement.
Great idea.
Jesus is ruling the earth at this point. Obviously, billions of people are going to be born during the millennium. Those kids that are born during the millennium will not even know what temptation is, all right? There will be nothing testing their faith. I'm not saying there's not going to be flesh, okay? Flesh is a whole different thing, you know? If I'm eating a whole plate of nachos, right, and then I want to order a second plate of nachos, is that just my flesh? Or is that being harassed by a demon? You know what I'm saying? Not everything is a demon on a doorknob, right? You have a body that wants things, right, that you have to deny.
So the only people who have the choice during the millennium, because we had this discussion yesterday, because I think I was are the children of the people who were born, are the people who are here during the tribulation. It's their children that are the ones who can be. And
the people that were here that made it through the tribulation.
So they can be swayed either way still.
There's going to be about 2 billion people left on earth.
So they'll just be telling their stories to their kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, about it.
They will procreate, or is that recreate?
Yeah, you're right.
They will have children, right? Those children will never be tempted. There's no devil, right?
Right.
But here's the thing. And this isn't a Bible thing. Like a New Testament revelation, blah, blah, blah. Something called the Targum, which is the Aramaic paraphrase of the Old Testament. Another publication called the Talmud is a compilation of all Jewish law and lore.
Yeah.
And you have the Jewish Midrash. That is an interpretive method to penetrate the deepest meaning of every Hebrew passage. Every single one of these publications that have been around these thousands of years believe that there will be a literal 1,000-year period when Jesus Christ reigns the earth, all right? So now it says at the end of Revelation 20, that after that 1,000 years, Revelation 20, verse 3 or 4, Satan will be set free for a short time.
Ugh.
And most commentators believe the reason he's released is because those offspring from the people that survived the tribulation and the Jews that survived the tribulation will not even know what temptation is.
Think how bloodthirsty he's going to be for their souls at that point. Those poor kids.
But they're going to have, I think Jesus will be on earth.
Okay,
exactly.
but we had this discussion yesterday.
They would have met Jesus personally. Did we get to meet Jesus personally?
Jim, explain the conversation that we had about what I was pointing to. I'm not attacking you. No, listen, about the how you were talking about the Israelites, how they got freed, and yet they saw miracles and the glory cloud, but they still had the idol. Because you're saying they're going to have Jesus. Yeah, that's great, but also just because that was helpful to me.
They get to meet Jesus personally because everyone has to go once a year. So,
but you said some people are going to rebel.
That's what makes us special. We never see it. We get raptured. I do not believe we're down here for this. All right, and other people do. Right, and that's something we're gonna have to find out when we get to heaven.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Did you turn away from me because you don't want any more?
No, because
anyways,
I feel
because
like
there's people that believe during the millennium it's the Jewish people, right? The 144,000.
They're going to be the evangelize the earth. But listen, and they're going to rule
the emissaries.
They're going to rule it.
Right.
But listen. She asked me so many tough questions, and I'm nervous.
He told me to
She's
stop.
A tough
I'm not going to ask you.
She's going to ask something that I can't answer. Okay.
I just said explain how
Linnea,
I'm not going to do that to you.
Linnea, you're a gift. That's
Thanks,
what you are.
John.
Especially when you drink the caramel macchiato. Yeah. But listen.
That's my game.
The devil is released one more time because those kids don't get a choice. Those people don't get a choice. There will be people in the millennium that on their own free will that will refuse to bow to Jesus without a devil. On their own free will.
You think they're like Scientologists, how they're their own gods?
Because let me tell you this, right? If God didn't do that, then he would be a dictator.
Right.
Then no one would get a choice, right? So he has got to give them a choice by releasing the devil, right? And Revelation 24, verse 4, I saw the thrones, they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God, which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. They lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. Listen to this. Listen to this. Who's that? Who's it saying they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years? Who is that? That is the souls of them that were beheaded. All right? It's very, very clear who that is.
I won't ask my tough question
all
there.
right. Now check this out.
Because never mind.
You should ask it when we get back in the office so I know for sure I can answer it next week. Now check this out.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I can admit if I don't know, and I'll just tell everybody.
That.
I'll just tell everybody, I'll have to answer that next week. But Lonaiah does this like 4 times a week. We waste probably 2 hours a week. She's asking, not wasting, but asking questions. It probably helps me, right?
It's discovery.
Because I have to study. But check this out. What this is all the people that were martyred in the tribulation. It says they're going to sit on thrones and reign with Jesus during the millennium. This is very interesting. There are 2 views on this. I do not believe we are here. Okay? I do not believe the ones that are raptured are here on earth. Okay? Let's just look at it from a numbers standpoint because I'm a numbers guy, right? I count everything. So he's going to bring back.
This is so true.
He's going to bring back every Christian that there has ever been since the death of Christ. What's that? 200 billion?
Right.
200 billion Christians?
I don't know, a lot.
50 billion? So you're going to have 50 billion people he's going to bring back reigning over 2 billion come out of the tribulation?
It seems.
Well, there's no way we're all going to fit on there.
Too many chiefs and not enough Indians?
Exactly.
50
it's a
billion?
weird analogy, but yeah.
I mean, we've done the numbers. If there's 8 billion people on earth right now,
Right.
and by the end of the tribulation, there's only 1/4 of the population left.
Right.
So the tribulation ends. You're going to have only 2 billion people left. To have every soul of every saint that's ever lived ruling and reigning,
Right.
50 to 100 billion
Right.
Christians
Right.
over. It doesn't. But the other view is the ones that get raptured. Okay, we're ruling and reigning elsewhere. Because it's a big universe.
It's a big universe.
Okay,
Absolutely.
and that is the other view. The
Which
people
sounds right to me.
the people that were murdered.
It's going to be fun.
During the tribulation that became Christians during the tribulation. You could say they were late to the party. They are given a resurrection to come to life and reign with Christ down here.
Yeah.
I believe the saints that go in the rapture are going to be on different assignments out in the universe. Okay.
Okay.
That's my opinion. A lot of Assemblies of God people think that the Lord is going to take 50 to 100 billion Christians and rule over 2 billion. Like I said, too many chiefs.
That's
not
too
enough
much.
Indians.
That's way too much.
Heaven is not going to be an eternal worship service. We all have a job in heaven. All right. You can find in heaven that there are doorkeepers. Do you want to be a heavenly valet?
I would not be a good doorkeeper to great people. No.
What are you given up there is based on how you do in your 70 to 90 years down here of training. This is like a training ground, like a boot camp. People are going to realize when they get up there to heaven, it's not going to be one great big worship service, all right? But let me tell you something. It's going to be great, but not everyone's going to get the same thing, all right? Not everyone. Me personally, I just want a
I'll be happy if I'm in charge of the dessert table.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. Anyways.
Meet me at the dessert table in heaven.
I mean, obviously, Earth looks a little bit different post-tribulation, right? Because it talks about New Jerusalem. We haven't got that.
We're going to get into that.
Yeah, but it's massive. It's like 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles. It's like
that's a lot.
That's huge.
Right. But you've only got 2 billion souls,
right?
That are living.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, I think
we'll be able
what
to
we
fly
know,
around then, right? Like lightning speed,
flying around.
Yeah.
Just Buzz Lightyear over here.
Yes, to infinity and beyond.
It's just it's
a different kind of.
There's a lot of this. So you just you can use your imagination, but you might never come to a good.
No
good
one
I have
answer.
so many thoughts.
No
on
one
that.
knows. We're going to find out if the Christians that are raptured are going to wind up really on earth, ruling and reigning. Then who's doing the universe? And if you think there's no life out in these, what is there, millions of galaxies?
But
like
this
that?
is my question,
Billions?
and we might not
Billions of
have
galaxies.
an answer.
Incalculable.
Is the Earth the only one having the rapture at that time, or are all the universes together having
don't
a
know.
collective rapture?
We don't know because
So then
we
maybe
haven't found-
that's why we're ruling on other planets, because they haven't had their rapture yet.
Maybe Jesus hasn't come for them yet.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe he doesn't need to come for them.
Even
They're
like
aliens.
even with
like 6 heads. Why
even
wouldn't
with
we?
Earth, though, I mean, we look at angels are created differently. Only on Earth are humans created with a spirit after God.
True.
So, I mean, again, what is to say what's out there in the universe in other planets? What does life look like? What are their souls? What are their spirits?
Yeah.
Listen,
it's just a lot to talk
it's going to
about.
be wild. There's going to be a distinction between the Christians that are raptured and everyone else, right? Because we never died. Do you get what I'm saying?
That is
Right.
wild.
So when we go to heaven in the rapture, we are with
Glorified
everyone
bodies.
I think
that's
I
died.
heard
Yeah.
Jill.
They've already died.
Yeah,
you know?
Jill Morris say like in heaven everybody has like, I don't know if it's like you have
Little signet.
or like something around your neck, like when you graduate and you have
Sure.
threads on you. But he was saying
tassels?
Yes, tassels. So the Christians who go in the rapture will have a different color tassel than everybody else. So everyone will know they're different. It's actually really interesting.
In Revelation, in the letters to the churches, he also says you're going to have another name. He's gonna get. You're gonna have a. He's gonna.
Maybe it was like the real name you're supposed to have, not the ones your parents
commentators
gave you.
think that name
Like
you
Kevin.
will. You and
Wrigley.
he will only know. Okay,
Oh.
it's pretty interesting.
Ooh.
But listen,
So it's God's nickname for you.
I'm sure it'll be hard to sort through all of the Johns and the Jims when we get up there. So
right.
Yeah.
But
You need a unique name like
I
Lonaiah.
exactly.
On another note, Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister,
Justin
Fidel Castro's suspected son,
The
threatens-
Bohemian Rhapsody singer. Did you hear
threatens
about
to
that?
reimpose mandates and restrictions if 90% of Canadians do not get. Listen to this.
We're listening.
We're definitely taking it
vax
seriously.
doses. He's trying to kill his population here.
Oh, for
3
sure.
vax doses by the fall. He states that if Canada has 80 to 85 to 90% of Canadians up to date with their vaxes, then they'll have a much better winter with much less need for the kinds of restrictions and rules that were so problematic for everyone the past few years. Thanks
No
for letting me finish.
disrespect on the vaccines, but if they're not doing anything and you have to get so many, why
Right.
do people continue to get them? But
And-
I will say the Canadians are going against that. So there is a movement going on Twitter
Rise
with the
up,
hashtag
Canada.
Trudeau must go. So everybody's tired of him. And
Finally,
actually,
the Canadians are
the
fighting
guy
back.
we talked about last week, the Porivillian guy, remember we talked
on.
about him. He's a new Republican candidate in
Up
Canada.
there in Canada,
He
yes.
He's actually winning in the polls right now.
Is he running
Interesting.
against
Yes,
Trudeau?
they think he'll
When
take
is
his place.
their election?
I don't know. I mean, Trudeau they just did.
If Trudeau doesn't cheat.
Right.
Right. Anyways.
Well, that's why we need to pray for that
We'll
guy.
move on
He's
from
great.
that. But listen, Venezuela empties their prisons. And you know what they're doing? They're sending violent criminals to the U.S. border.
You guys,
Send
the
them to
criminals.
This
Martha's
is the
Vineyard.
Department of Homeland Security. This is not a news service that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
The Department of Homeland Security is saying Venezuela has emptied their prisons and sending the most violent criminals to the U.S. border.
Can I read something on that? Because
Yep.
it's proof. So Venezuela, under the leadership of authoritarian socialist Nicolas Maduro, is intentionally freeing his country's most hardened criminals. These criminals are convicted of murder, rape, and extortion.
Yeah.
This was brought to the Department of Homeland Security in an intelligence report. This is not fake news. This is actually real. So more than 130,000 Venezuelan illegals have been entering the U.S. So their number is 3,000% higher than the 5,000 entered in 2020. So their number is going up. But they were literally taking prisoners from the camp and bringing them to the border and letting them go. And we do not have enough Border Patrol agents to handle all this. And this might shock you, but the Border Patrol czar that's over it met with George Soros. So I just think there's a whole plan behind it. And one more thing about the illegal immigrants coming in. They are, Congress is trying to pass, Senate or Congress, I'm not sure which one, voted that they are allowed to vote.
Which is
that
ridiculous.
Was yesterday. This isn't just California
illegal
now.
immigrants
We're talking about
allowed to vote.
Every state in the United States. This will affect everybody.
Yeah. The sovereignty of the Constitution is definitely under attack.
It is under
attack. Has been for a while,
yes.
but
they're not even citizens.
No, they're not.
You know, Joe Biden welcomes 3 migrants for every 4 U.S. births. All right.
That is an insane number.
Listen, Martha's Vineyard declared a humanitarian crisis because the governor of Florida sent a bus of 50 illegal immigrants and gets them deported. He sends them up there and they get off the bus.
Because Martha's Vineyard is a sanctuary city.
It is.
And so they're,
However.
But Martha's Vineyard deports them off the island in less than 24 hours. Onto a military base. They state they don't have room to house them.
They don't have room.
Because they have a housing issue on the island.
And CNN is calling the Venezuelans our brothers and sisters. They're saying the illegal immigrants are brothers and sisters and we treated them unfairly. Tucker Carlson does an amazing piece on that whole situation.
Yeah.
But basically the mayor of New York shipped the illegal immigrants that came from Texas to Florida, and then DeSantis is like, this is too much. We're going to send them to the sanctuary cities that said you were sanctuary cities, because the Biden administration is saying that this is not a crisis at the border. So they're like, let's bring them to their backyards. Who's
Right.
the people
Yeah,
who are
if
saying
it's not a crisis,
not a
let's send them
crisis.
to the sanctuary cities.
Yeah.
They're welcoming them.
Yeah.
And
Right?
the people of Martha's...
supposedly.
Yeah.
It's interesting to be a city like Martha's Vineyard and declare themselves a sanctuary city with no real chance of having
Well,
to
they
deal
called
with
it a
it until
humanitarian.
now.
But it's a humanitarian crisis for
But-
50 illegal immigrants. So
Yeah.
we have 400...
Have you seen how many VRBOs
Yes.
that are available right
Yes.
now in Martha's Vineyard?
Well, have you seen
empty?
Obama's house in Martha's Vineyard? They could all
I
stay in
haven't.
one wing of it.
Listen,
Nice place.
what city is Mayor Lightfoot?
Chicago.
Okay, the mayor of Chicago, sanctuary city, in a panic over Kamala Harris's, that's the vice president, her statement of there is not a crisis on the border. She just recently said that. And the mayor of Chicago said that they're left to fend for themselves. It is a migrant crisis. And so meanwhile,
This is funny.
DeSantis, the governor of Florida, sent a plane load of illegal immigrants to Biden's home in Delaware and his beach home in Georgetown.
Well, he'll get a lot of
Right.
FaceTime with them in Georgetown because he goes on vacation every weekend for 4 days.
And so, but, you know,
DeSantis, what a great guy.
I know.
Class
on a
act.
climate change note, electric airliner
Run 2024.
moves a step closer as a startup unveils a 30-seat model for an electric plane. It's a Swedish startup company called Heart Aerospace. They've revealed a 30-seat design. It's only able to travel 124 miles. I do not think I would ever get on an electric plane.
No.
At that point, though, like to go 124 miles,
know.
it's like
Why?
you go on the interstate and it's going to be 95
Can
100 minutes.
every morning, because I leave my
Goodness.
place that I work out at, and the Target parking lot has chargers. And there is this guy every morning from like 5:45 until 7, plugged in with his Tesla at the Target parking lot with his laptop and computer. I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
You want to waste 3 hours of your morning charging it for...
He couldn't install
4 hours?
a thing at his apartment. So.
But did you see the Tesla plant just went up in flames? One of them in Texas, I
I'm
think.
sure that they won't know who did that.
The gigabyte
Well, I'm sure it's the
or the
battery.
giga plant in Texas.
I think so.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, Elon Musk faces skepticism over plans to create a legion of autonomous humanoid robots. He discussed this as a TED Talk and said he foresees these androids making dinner, mowing lawns, or even care for the elderly. He joked that these machines could even be friends with a lonely person or act as a sex partner. Now listen, this reminds me. We went over this in Revelation. One of the judgments, I believe it was a trumpet judgment, where an army of a 200 million is released on the earth. It kills 1/4 of the earth, this army. And I just think about this now. There's commentators are split on this army is demons, pure demons. This is the Chinese army. But I contend it would not surprise me if it is an android army.
Sure.
I mean,
You know?
of
Yeah.
course, you can
Seriously,
program
a
them.
tech army.
Right.
It would not. That's what they're coming
My-
up with. An army. It just said an army.
My only thing is
Legion of
if
autonomous.
Legion. But isn't
But-
it, how many is Legion? Legion. Yeah, that's one.
But
Okay.
with that, I thought that after that the raptors were going to be feasting, or the carrion were going to be
true.
feasting on the bodies.
That's true, but look,
A Legion is 5,000
how do you
men.
know they're not like cloned
I don't. I mean, it
with
could.
Well, they
human
could
skin?
clone.
They've got. Don't they have?
They do. They're doing that.
Yeah, I'm just saying these things are going to look like
Yeah.
a man,
Well, sure.
probably, and probably taste like a man since they're now eating hamburgers in Sweden. That right?
Tastes like humans.
Yeah, who knows?
I
how,
actually-
do, how do
Gross.
people know what that tastes
Still
like?
wrong,
But
Cannibalism
listen,
is
still.
big.
there
and it's wrong.
more.
It's wrong.
On the
We do
climate
not
change.
support it.
You know, more ridiculous stuff here. Healthy teenagers. There's a study that says at risk of irregular heartbeats from climate change.
Come on.
What a crock.
Their concern is heart arrhythmias. Is that what it's called?
Arrhythmia.
It's just sad
appear
that they're...
to be triggered.
That's not the
even
problem.
when air pollution within or isn't within quality limits, so they think
Or-
it's climate change.
It's not.
They're blaming
Yes.
everything on climate change. The World Economic Forum highlights benefits of a personal carbon allowance. And they're stating that they need surveillance technology for patrolling carbon emissions at a personal level.
Of course they
We've
do.
been telling you this is coming.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have.
And they now have driverless Ubers. All right, I'm sure
You
we've all heard
guys-
this vehicle is driven automatically. It
If-
doesn't have a driver.
Can I just tell you one thing? If you go on John Christ, he's a Christian comedian. He's hilarious.
He is
On
really
his
funny.
Facebook post, he gets into a Uberless
Yes.
driverless
Yeah.
Uber, and it takes him around. He's like, "This is crazy," and he actually unbuckles his seatbelt to like record. And a lady comes on and's like, "Sir, please buckle your seatbelt." And he kind of looks around, and's like, "Why?" She's like, "Your seatbelt's not buckled." He's like, "How can you see?" She's like, "There's a camera in there." But the whole experience, it's like 7 minutes. It's insane. Insane.
Well, Kamala Harris states that President Joe Biden and herself are clear. All our work to address the climate crisis must be grounded in environmental justice and equity. So now hot weather
Is
a
racist.
racist.
Which, yeah.
But can I say
And
one?
I mean, we saw all this. Was it the CNN reporter or the
Oh, yeah.
the MSNBC? I don't remember which one it was, but the Project Veritas
Yeah.
had that conversation with them,
A
and they
year
said,
ago.
yeah, they said once COVID's clear, it's
It's going to be
going to be
climate
all
crisis.
climate. They're going to push it.
Let me tell you one more thing before you jump back in. Governor Newsom, we've talked about him a
Gavin.
lot. He signed a bill last night that California will allow human composting after death to combat climate change. So listen, the far left state of California further embraced neo-paganism this week when Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill. This is a bill into law allowing the practice of composting dead human beings to better combat climate change. It's scary. It's
Listen,
X-Files stuff.
so
It's
the final
so
part
wrong.
of this
It is.
teaching, and early, it's going to take me 2 or 3 weeks to get through the millennium, probably at least 3. But at Revelation 24, it says, the souls of those who have been beheaded, that's referring to the people, both Gentiles and Jews in the tribulation,
Yeah.
who refuse to worship the Antichrist or the images of the Antichrist. They refuse to take his mark after Satan is bound and chained. They are re-given their bodies at that point and raised from the dead. And
cool.
people
It is
can
cool.
get confused by this here. So we're just going to, take our time and walk through this. Revelation 20, verse 5, but the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. All right. So then there's going to be another resurrection. Let's look at quickly what Jesus says.
Crazy.
John 5, 28 and 29. He says, marvel not at this, for the hour is coming in the which all that are in the graves shall hear his voice, and shall come forth, they that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. So you have the first resurrection, which is called the resurrection of life, which is the believers. The second resurrection is the resurrection of unbelievers. This verse is saying there will be 1,000 years between those two resurrections, right? Now, I don't want to confuse people, so let's just break it down simply. At the end of Armageddon, Satan is thrown into hell, bound and chained.
Okay.
We just read about the resurrection of the people that are killed during the tribulation.
Yeah.
All right? This isn't us. We've been raptured. We've already been raised. For those people that were dead, and they were given their heavenly bodies, right?
Yeah.
And that can operate in heaven and be in the glory of God all the time. I'm just going to take my time with this millennium thing.
Okay.
Right?
Please
In
do.
essence,
There's a lot to
There's a
sort
lot.
through,
Yes, you have 5
A lot of
resurrections in the
questions.
Bible, okay? Starting with Jesus bringing up the Old Testament saints out of Abraham's
Yeah.
bosom when Jesus was raised from the dead. You've got, number 2, the resurrection of the church at the rapture, all right?
Okay.
In the middle of the tribulation, you have another resurrection of the 2 witnesses.
Which I love the 2 witnesses.
And we did a whole podcast on them where they were protecting the tribulation temple. That is where they were operating out of. That is why the tribulation temple, I believe, was protected all that time. And it was really interesting because they had special weapons. You can just go back and see
I mean,
that.
if somebody shot at them or did something to them, it would go back and hit that and kill that person who tried to attack
They
the
kill,
witnesses.
it says they kill with fire, I believe, out of their mouth.
Okay.
coming out of their mouth. And the Antichrist,
dragon.
he kills them because it's like a little private war between them and the Antichrist. He kills them, all right? And it'll be seen all over the world on everybody's iPhones, right?
Of course.
Probably by that time, the iPhones, it'll be like in their head.
Well, did we
Yes.
talk about that last week where they're trying to make your phone be in your contact lenses or
Yes.
glasses so you can see news and things all the time scrolling?
But the
in your
Antichrist kills these witnesses. God raises them from the dead to make a point, and he has to kill them again. The fourth resurrection, what we're talking about here, is this is the fourth resurrection in the Bible, the resurrection of the tribulation saints, what we just read about. Then you're going to have one more, okay? And that's not going to be a good one. That's what Jesus calls the resurrection of damnation. It's the resurrection of all the unbelievers at the end of the millennium. All right?
Yeah.
And they will be judged, all right, and sent back to hell. So we're going to leave off at Revelation 20, verse 5, pick up next week at Revelation 26. And after we're done with the millennium, I'm going to run you through a timeline. It's a really detailed timeline of Revelation. It'll probably take a whole podcast to do it. An exact timeline of the tribulation from the rapture to the second coming. That timeline will continue into the millennium. I'm talking about everything that happens, all the judgments,
Right.
every single thing. When the pact, the treaty signed with Israel, just everything. There's a lot of little things. There's like 35 things that go on that we know that will go on. And so then we go into the new heaven and earth. From there, I want to get into the new Jerusalem, which we very rarely hear talked about. I'm excited in these coming weeks to get back into the book of Revelation. I love it, and it makes me study it, and and then on top of that, with Lonaiah's questions, after a while, I'm gonna know it all, right?
That's right.
No, I'm just kidding.
I refrain from asking some of my questions.
No, they're good questions. They make you think, right?
Yeah,
But listen,
they do make you think.
all right, and so the number 3 here with the news, this. I call it the fake energy crisis, right? France
Yes.
Electricity
Definitely.
Network said country may have to forego power for several hours during the winter. See, they're just trying to they're just turning that knob
a little more.
and making everybody
Just a little
suffer
more.
just a little bit. And I guarantee you, next summer, it'll be a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right?
Can I say one thing about
You
France?
can.
Because Glenn Beck did a podcast on Europe, and they're facing the economic hell of their energy crisis. But my dad sent me a text saying 32 of 56 nuclear power plants have been shut down in France. If you are dealing with that, why are you shutting down power plants?
And
They're creating their own
nuclear
problem.
power plants are the cleanest version of energy.
Right.
It's by far.
So why? So it's just a man-controlled
It's man-made.
crisis.
Yeah. It's,
Like a
it's
lot of the
manufactured
crises. Yes.
completely.
The
Sorry.
Swiss government is telling people to shower together to save energy in a bid to cut energy by 15% before the winter. And here's an interesting one here. The red heifers arrive in Israel.
It's like, I mean, unless you have a specific shower, you
we still
don't
on the
really
shower.
like gain any like
Benefit from
there's no
showering with
benefit.
two?
Yeah.
Because if it's tight, you got to
Right.
take turns.
I mean,
the water is going to go as long as
just-
it's going to go.
it just doesn't make sense.
I just don't even want those pictures in my mind. Red heifers arrive in Israel. The Temple
Yeah.
Institute
That's huge.
That is
and Bonnet, Israel, made a huge step towards reinstating the temple service on Thursday when 5 red heifers landed at Ben Gurion International Airport.
Yeah, read-
We've also done a podcast on the red heifers.
Yes,
Right.
they're so interesting.
They're a sign of the end times.
Yes.
all right?
because they
And-
just have to turn 2 years old. Is that what it is?
yeah, but listen to this story that we found.
We have to give Jimmy Evans credit here.
He's
Thanks,
great.
Jimmy.
This is straight from here, off his tipping point. Some of you heard the tipping point conference where 5 red heifers arrived in Israel as members of the Temple Institute continue preparing to construct the 3rd temple in Jerusalem. The heifers are all under 1 year old. You do know what a heifer is? A cow, right?
A beautiful
it's
red
a
cow.
red cow.
I love
A
cows.
red-
And according to
Female
biblical
cow.
standards under the law,
Heifer.
it can't even have it can't have over like 3 or 4 black
I think
hairs.
it's- I think
It has
it's-
to be red.
Yeah, they have to be.
Can you imagine the
Or I think maybe-
microscope you have to check that thing through? I mean,
If they remain 100% red and avoid any blemishes that would disqualify them, they will each be eligible to be used to create the ashes required by Jewish law to purify those who have been in contact with a dead body, explained the Temple Institute. Remember, because they're going back to this stuff, right? After and in the tribulation, the Jews are going back to sacrificing, and this level of purification will be needed in order to allow the priests to carry out their work in the future temple.
Is that because the church was removed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. The cows, we would have been raptured at this time. The cows are currently being quarantined in Haifa before being sent to special locations for safekeeping. Haifa's in Israel.
Good idea.
Where each one will continue to be inspected for blemishes. These special cattle were bred by a rancher in Texas named Byron Stinson. I bet he sold those things.
For a bank?
Millions. Because they didn't have one before
Or maybe
him.
he gifted
How
them
did he get it?
because...
Yeah, he
Maybe.
could have gifted it.
I mean, can you imagine you're a farmer and you're raising cows and you read this in the Bible and you're like, I could do that.
There's some right here.
Listen,
How amazing to be used like that. Like just,
But
anyways.
he says, I didn't set out to do this guy, but right now I'm probably the best red heifer hunter in Texas.
I love his confidence. All right, Stinson.
Stinson told Israel 365 News, the Bible says to bring a red cow to purify Israel. I may not understand it, but I'm just doing what the Bible said. Stinson is a Christian and is referring to the commandment from God in Numbers 19. This is an ordinance of the law which the Lord has commanded, saying, speak to the children of Israel that they bring you a red heifer without blemish, in which there is no defect, on which a yoke has never come. You shall give it to Eleazar the priest, that you may take it outside the camp. It shall be slaughtered before him. Eleazar the priest shall take some of its blood with his finger and sprinkle some of its blood 7 times directly in front of the tabernacle of meeting. Then the heifer shall be burned in the sight. Its hide, its flesh, its blood, and its offal shall be burned.
And isn't it amazing
Numbers 19, 2-5.
that it doesn't say specifically where the animal has to come from? Because
No.
when you read in the Bible, when they say, go get a donkey and it's at so-and-so's house, it's
Right.
very specific.
Right.
So I think it's cool that this guy's in Texas and was like, I'm going to answer that call and see if it's my
absolutely.
heifer.
Well,
cool.
this is related to the end times. This is the rebuilding of the tribulation temple. It will be the tribulation temple, which has to happen because it's a role in Bible prophecy, and that's where the abomination of desolation takes place. We've talked about that, about the Antichrist coming down, sitting down in the temple, taking the place of trying to take the place of God, and we've got to have a rebuilt temple for that to happen. The priests of the Temple Institute can't rebuild the temple until they cleanse the Temple Mount using the ashes of an unblemished red heifer. The presence of this red heifer candidate is a major end time sign. Pure, unblemished red heifers are extremely rare. Often these cows start out red, but some hairs end up not being fully pigmented, which means they can't be declared unblemished. It has to be perfect. It's likely that all 5 cattle that have been delivered won't all stay red. According to Jewish rabbis, there have only been 9 qualifying red heifers in the history. And some of these rabbis think that the 10th will usher in the reign of the Messiah. Red is the color of redemption. Israel was delivered through the parting of the Red Sea. The sacrificial blood of Jesus was red. God is ready to redeem Israel, purify the Temple Mount, and the sacrifice of this red heifer is critical to it, just like the blood of Jesus is critical to our own redemption. Once the red heifer is confirmed and the Temple Mount has been purified, the rebuilding of the temple will begin. Everything is ready, and it has to be ready because the abomination of desolation takes place 3.5 years into the tribulation.
Yep.
The tribulation begins after the rapture, and the rapture could be very soon. In other words,
So they sacrifice these red heifers after the Antichrist is in the temple to purify the temple. That's what the heifer...
Yes.
No?
No. It's the red before they can. Jimmy Evans just said it has to be done before they can even build it.
Right.
Okay.
And thank you, Jimmy Evans. This was Jimmy Evans
on point today.
The tipping point, and he's just phenomenal. Okay, he's an end times expert as well as expert in many other things. Great preacher of the word. Now for the news number 3 here. Or did we already do news number 3?
You're on it. You're red heifer, and there's your next point.
Oh, thank you. What would I do without you, Lonaiah? So
No one knows.
You want to have papers in your hand?
You'd have no crazy
You'd have
questions
no
coming
notes.
at
I
you.
wouldn't even be here. Okay, all right, listen. Anyone hear about McDonald's axe-wielding man
Yes.
that went on
No.
a rampage?
I didn't hear
obviously,
about it.
you
Oh,
found
sorry.
You found the story, Lonaiah. He goes on a rampage.
Have you not heard about it?
Okay, he goes on a rampage
bad.
at McDonald's
In New York.
over a lady who wouldn't accept his advances, and he didn't hurt anyone, but he attacked McDonald's,
With an axe.
doing thousands of dollars worth of damage, and he got let out of prison the same night.
Bail free.
This is where we're going. This is where we're going under this administration. This is where we're going.
Can
Bail
I
free and gloated was. I mean, can you imagine? You destroy a place of business in public, right? You destroy it,
Wow.
and they let you out.
Yeah.
Can I say
You're
one
dangerous.
more? Can I say
Oh,
one
yeah.
more?
Axe.
Talking about bail free, you guys. I don't know if you heard about the Texas teenager. He was an 18-year-old Republican. He was at a street dance party. I don't know what that is, but I think it was Texas. No, it was North Dakota. This was in North Dakota. This
would
just
be-
happened.
That would be
Party
a
in the
dance
street?
party in the street.
I know, but just
Okay.
like what? Okay, but a 41-year-old man heard that this kid was a Republican and said he's a terrorist threat. Where else did we hear that? That's just what President Biden said a few weeks
Right.
ago. He runs the kid over with his car and kills him. They let him out that night, bail free.
Wow.
This is where it's
This
going.
is where we're going. Murder is getting out.
And
Okay,
you need to
That-
take your authority.
You do.
Yes.
And we did 4 weeks,
This
straight
poor
weeks
18-year-old
on
kid.
what it is, exactly how you got it, and how to use it.
Yes.
Right. And you just have to do that,
Yeah.
because that's all demons right there.
It is a demon.
that killed that kid, and Virginia. This is good news. Replaces radical gender theory policy with new pro-parent policy manufacturing. That's great news for Virginia
Glenn
parents.
Youngkin is
Yes.
amazing.
And
Yep.
new guidelines overhauled the state's transgender policy for public
Thank
schools,
God.
preventing administration from hiding children's gender transition from parents.
Yep.
Can you believe that this is what they're trying to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're
It's-
trying to make it legal for the public school to hide your child getting a gender transition from
What
you.
in the world?
I just read
From
an
you.
article from a parent who the school did that, and they were transitioning the girl to a boy, and the parents didn't know what was wrong with the kid, and the kid ended up coming to them and telling them what was happening, and they're suing the school. But those kinds of things are happening all over, and at hospitals, if your parents don't agree with it, they assign you a gender aide,
Right.
and this person is then assigned to you, and they go with you, and they make sure that you are correctly
gendering.
and that everyone's saying like your pronouns and
Yeah.
everything exactly how you want them to be. That's where we're going. We're going to have gender aides that are assigned to children whose parents won't let them do this, and they'll give them this
Yeah.
crazy gender aide person.
Thank God my children are 28 and 25.
I know. Can you imagine raising? I mean, my
Well,
kids
you
are
guys are.
teenagers.
I am.
Well, thankfully,
Just started again.
you did. You got a baby. You got a 4-month-old.
My kid
Ish.
would have to be in a Christian school or a Catholic school in the least that doesn't do that, because there's some liberal Catholic schools out there. There's some
Conservative Catholic
yes,
schools. Yes.
right, and there's
For
liberal
sure.
ones.
Both my
But
kids
I wouldn't
went
go
to
to public
Catholic.
school at this
No.
point. I just wouldn't, because it'd be a lot of work
Yeah.
to keep that stuff
Right.
out of your kid's head every day. They're pounding it in, right?
They
It
do.
just-
Even my kids, two go to a conservative Catholic school, one went to a progressive Catholic school, and that was starting to come in. He graduated and isn't there any longer, but that was starting to infiltrate in
That's
the
crazy.
non-conservative Catholic school.
That is crazy.
It is crazy.
And so Tucker Carlson, he did a great piece on this
Yes,
very
he did.
thing. There's a 6.8 magnitude earthquake trapped hundreds in Taiwan, and I'm still watching that China-Taiwan thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're just waiting for their time there. Mexico is struck by an earthquake on the same day 3 years in a row. All right.
Wild.
End times. Federal court rules big tech has no First Amendment right to censor anything. All right.
Thank God.
Good.
Anything. So didn't I got on here Lonaiah FBI?
Yeah,
point?
because
Okay.
I was reading an article that said if you are a conservative person, they're looking for conservative people who oppose the elections or oppose vaccine mandates or had questions about anything. And you can direct message people on social media. We're talking Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that. When you send Twitter. That information and you DM it to somebody, you get a little warning sign that says, it kind of like states that you're being censored and that this information isn't correct.
Like communist
that's
China.
going on right now.
But I have something else to say to that.
That's going on
after.
right now, correct?
But you
correct?
send that to your friend. They send that alert to the FBI. The FBI gets alert on that. You think it's crazy? I'll find the article and I'll post it to this.
So that's going on right now.
Yes, that is going on right now.
If you send a conservative laced questioning, like she said, different things that they don't like, that DM goes to the FBI.
Yes.
And this is not conspiracy.
And
this is the truth.
This is the truth. And right now you have the United Nations global agenda. They're meeting in New York. And you have the Ardern. I think she's the Prime Minister of New Zealand. She's a little crazy. But she is detailing a plan for governments, not just her government, governments, to investigate algorithms that drive social media in a bid to stamp out extremism. So like they
Which
don't want.
Sounds pretty extreme in the first place.
So you guys, they have a plan here. Obviously, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
And Mark Zuckerberg is just getting slammed with it all, which is good.
Yeah.
But
we just need to vote these people out.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's number one. Number one, you need to pray. You need to watch. You need to use your authority over yourself and your family. And you know what? You can use your authority over the president of the United States, the government or the governor of your state.
Yeah.
You can tell those demons, you can command them.
Yeah.
You can push them back. You can pray over the U.S. Congress and the Senate using the name of Jesus, commanding them to step off, right? And the thing is that people just do this. They do it one time and think that it just doesn't work.
Right.
Right. But if everyone would do it, all right, it would take an effect. You would see a little light, and then you'd see a little bit more light.
Right.
But if people don't pray, and decree and use their authority, we're going nowhere, right? We're going nowhere.
I just want to say one really quick thing, because we had a listener write in, which thank you to everybody who writes in and gives us positive feedback and asks us questions. But we had a person write in, and she said she appreciates this program and what we talk about and the things we discuss, because she said everybody thinks it's conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
But the good thing about this is you can send it to the people who think, oh, this is conspiracy theories, because we have actual articles linked to everything we discuss that proves this isn't just a conspiracy theory.
No,
like call us Q or mega Trump supporters. We're not. We're just bringing you information.
This is out there.
Actual, factual information.
And most of this is coming from mainstream media like sources. They're talking about it out in the open.
It's just hidden though.
It's
you're not going to see it on CNN. They're not going to mention anything about this. According to them, everything's great.
But when you just have the news on and you're doing dishes or making dinner for your family, you're not zoned in listening to every word that's being said. But send someone an article. Don't be afraid to share. There's articles for everything. Absolutely. We back up everything. Denver is set to give 140 homeless people up to $12,000 in cash as part of basic income program. This will cost taxpayers a total of $2 million. With the Denver Basic Home Project was approved by the City Council, will direct cash assistance to more than 140 women, transgender, and gender individuals and families in shelters. Okay. Well, instead of just giving these people money, why don't I'm all for helping homeless people. Put them in a program. Show them how to get reestablished into society instead of giving them cash that. Just straight up cash. Governor of California, Newsom, quotes Jesus to advertise abortion in pro-life states. Quote, need an abortion, ? California is ready to help. Here's the quote. Mark 12:31, in support of abortion, love your neighbor as yourself. Wow. That's what he's using. What a joke taken out of context, obviously. Out of context. Okay, Gavin. All right. But abortions all over TikTok, people have abortion parties. It's like a rite of passage. It's like some sick, twisted thing. It's turning into a religious thing. Yes, it is. Oh, yeah. If you don't think there's a demon on that. Yeah. Yeah. And okay, freedom protests are taking place all over the world. Yeah, right now. Ireland stands together. They need to stand. Right. Yeah. But those people need to stand because Ireland is messed up. They are. Right? And at least their government. Yeah.
The Irish, please. I've got Irish in me.
Luck of the Irish.
Right. Made a statement
That's
against
great.
the World Economic Forum. You got some Irish in you, don't you?
Probably.
Okay. You're a lot of things.
Great grandma Black. You got it.
Okay.
Great Grandma
Anyways,
Black, that's her name.
Yeah.
They're not trying to fix anything, is what the Irish people are. It's called Ireland Stands Together. They're trying to break everything and leave it broken. You might want to start paying a closer
Right.
attention.
They're talking about the World Economic Forum.
Yes. And
Sorry, I don't think anyone heard you because John was over there
making sounds.
Yeah.
Listen, okay, but the ad for teachers, no experience necessary, right? There's ads for
Interesting.
teachers with no experience. As schools struggle to find educators, some no longer require college degrees.
Wow.
And so, wonder if this has to do with letting 800 unvaccinated teachers and classroom aides, which were fired from the New York Department of Education. Right. Meanwhile, the CDC doesn't differentiate between those with and without the shot.
Right.
At this point.
Right.
And they fired 800 unvaccinated teachers. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's
in New
just
York.
one place
and
we're
now
talking about.
they're hiring teachers with no experience. Right. And so, because the vaccination, I haven't seen it that stop anyone from getting COVID. Matter of fact, we know a guy with 2 vaccinations personally, and he's gotten COVID twice.
Right.
Right. And so, anyways,
I mean, I'm not educated, and I try and help my kids with their homework. They're in 10th and 11th grade, and there's no way I can't even help them with their homework. So you're going to have uneducated people. You know what's going to happen?
Right.
They're going to start to hire more LGBTQ people who will their goal is to infiltrate. You can watch it on TikTok. We were talking kindergartner teachers. This one lady was reading books on transgenderism to kindergartners. These kids don't even understand what they're listening to. They're just reading books on it.
Use your authority, America.
Yes.
And the countries that we have a lot of people listening from a lot of countries. I think that lady from writing and from Guatemala. There's a guy I know listens in Ireland.
Yep.
Countries from across the world. Use your authority. The Bible says in the New Testament, if you want peace, pray for your leaders.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's not just, oh, God bless this guy and bless that guy, right? Mm-hmm. It's using your authority as a Christian that you've been given, all right? And using the name of Jesus, all right?
Yeah.
And we've talked about it. You can go back in previous podcasts and you can push back things on your leaders, right?
Yep.
On your leaders, especially over your family. That's not a given, but use it over your government. Use it for other Christians in your church, right? And so that's in the body of Christ. And so with that, we're going to sign off from the Final Hour podcast. And thank you so much again, all of our viewers, listeners, and subscribers on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. God bless you. See you next week.